Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sybil Amuti.
All right, great girlfriends. I don't even know how to tell you how happy I am right now, but let me just say I'm like really excited. You can probably hear it in my voice because I feel like I have like unearthed a really beautiful gem. And I know y'all probably already know her, but I'm like late to the party. Well, am I late, Darnyelle? I am kind of tardy. I'm late, huh?
No, I don't think so.
I'm on
think
time.
You're late. I think you're right on time.
I'm on time. This is why I love you. So I'm on time for the party, great girlfriends, because I was on Clubhouse, club hopping, as many of you do. Someone pinged me to join this room, kept pinging and said, you got to join this room. I said, okay. I joined this room. I hear the voice of a woman who had so much strength, so much fervor, so much knowledge around scaling business, around marketing, around sales and systems, all the understanding that each one of us needs as entrepreneurs. And she was so generous with this knowledge that it just blew my mind to feel and experience her spirit as she spoke. So I skipped off the Clubhouse room. I ran on the Instagram because I was like, who is she? I gotta know. And I found out she's in Newark. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe that I haven't met her. And I start liking all these pictures and I sent over to Celeste on our team. I was like, I need her on the podcast. She's amazing. And I thought it was gonna be super hard to get you. I really did. Oh no, I DM'd you. I DM'd you first. I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna tell her she's the bomb and I like need her on the show. And then she's like, wait, I'm a great girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, even better. So great girlfriends. I'm introducing you to one of your own, amazing Darnyelle Jervey. Is that how we say your middle name?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jervey Harmon.
Darnyelle Jervey Harmon. Mm-hmm.
Who, first of all, is looking fab. And she's actually taking me up 5 notches today because she is like so on point with her glam and her glow. And she's doing all this as a multimillion-dollar business strategist and coach. And when I tell you the servant's heart was really what grabbed me, because y'all know I love to love on people. And I felt like that was part of who she is. I just felt immediately attracted to her spirit and wanted to know more. And I wanted to introduce you to her because I feel like she's got the keys that we all need for 2021 in terms of really building and scaling out the next level of business. So Darnyelle, I want to welcome you. I hope I welcomed. Do you feel welcomed?
I do feel welcome. I'm sitting there listening like, who is this girl who's about to tell these people that stuff? I'm excited. I mean, Sybil, I have just a tremendous amount of love, admiration, and respect for what it is that you do. So I'm honored and humbled and very grateful to be here right now.
Oh, you're so kind.
I'm trying not to cry.
Girl, don't you better not, because then I'm going to cry and I'm a snotter. So I'm a weird crier and I can't catch my breath. And it's like, it's not cute. But Darnyelle, you have an incredible bio. And I even love this great girlfriends. I said, I see this bio. Do you want me to go through your whole bio? She's like, and she gave me the face that I give everybody else, like, because bios can be like this long drawn out thing. And I think she's probably going to tell me, she's very simply, who are you, Darnyelle? I want to hear from you. When you break yourself down.
I am first and foremost God's most precious and favorite daughter. Like, I'm sorry. Just face it, I'm his favorite. You just need to do that. And then, outside of that, I'm here on a mission to fulfill a mission to shape the planet. I want people to understand who they are, that they were created in the image and likeness of God. And with that comes an entitlement to experience wealth and abundance at the next level. I am a wife of 3 years, so I'm late to the marriage party. I got married at 42 or 5 days before my 42nd birthday. I am hopeful to one day soon be somebody's mama.
Yes.
And I get to run this amazing company, Incredible One Enterprises, where our mission is quite simply to help six-figure service-based entrepreneurs become 7-figure CEOs at the $1 million level with grace and ease instead of hustle and grind, while experiencing abundance financially and spiritually. And so that's who I am. That's what I get to do. And when I'm not doing that, I am crazy and quirky, and I like to call myself ghettois. So that means I have ghetto tendencies and I have bougie tendencies. So we use that into ghettois. But yeah, that's me. That's Darnyelle.
I love it. And then this shirt you have on is so cute. It says, I'm just trying to make God proud. I think you probably do that. You are in competition for that favorite spot, though. I really I know for a fact I'm high ranking, and like I have all the receipts that prove that I'm the favorite.
Yeah,
So
me too.
what?
I'm willing to share though, because God is so big and so magnanimous that he can make all of us feel like his favorite at the same time without
So
taking anything
true.
away from anyone else. So I'm willing to share as long as you can co-create the favorite space with me. I'm happy.
Yes. Okay, that's fair. We can do that because I do think there's so much room for everyone to be daddy's girl for sure. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love the feeling of knowing that you're his favorite and like living that out. It's a really tender
Yeah.
feeling. It's like I don't know. The crown sits really high. I'm like, you really can't tell me much about my God. Like there's nothing unless it confirms it. Like, no, I'm not hearing it.
Right. I think Smokey Norfolk said it best. You can't make me doubt him because I know too much about him. I know him for myself. That's the thing. Because see, until I figured out how to meet God and know him for myself, I was hunching on somebody else's interpretation of him. And that got me into a lot of trouble. But when I, boldly, flat-faced, laying prostrate, went before him to get an understanding of who he was and who he was to be to me, everything began to change. And that's where my confidence came from. That's where all of who I get to be today shows up from. And it's from that space that I do everything that I do, because I just know that, if we could see ourselves the way that God saw us before we were formed in our mother's womb, there wouldn't be fear, there wouldn't be doubt, there wouldn't be lack, there wouldn't be any confusion or questioning. There would only be confidence. That's all there would be. And so I'm just trying to do my part to help more people to confidently articulate who they are in God and leverage that through the power of their work.
That's so good. Speaking of that leveraging part, everyone wants to get to the money. Everyone, entrepreneurs will leave their job one day, will LLC it the next day, and then want to turn six figures by Friday. And they're like, wait, I don't have six figures by Friday. Oh, this business is going to fail. I'm going to quit. It's not going to work. And, truth be told, I've preached this from every rooftop that I really feel like we put so much pressure on a baby business to hold an adult life. Like you want this business you've had for 3 months to carry a lifestyle that you built over 10, 15 years. And it's just such a heavy expectation to put on a brand new business, when it hasn't even matured to that point. And so we got a lot of listeners who are leaping and they're taking that cliff jump into starting a business, and they're feeling great. You've been out the gate, that early entrepreneur gate where you're like, I'm doing it. It's happening. And then you're like, wait a minute. What? Hold on a minute.
I've been bankrupt. I've been back to work. I've been all of it in the early part of the entrepreneurial journey. So yeah, I definitely totally get it. I agree with you, Sybil. No one goes to bed a blunder and wakes up a wonder. Right?
It's all
a journey. And, I think the way that you can simplify the journey is, I think it's like 3 steps, right? Like, I think the first thing that we have to do is we have to get clear. Like, people don't want to take the time that it takes to really get clear. Yeah. That's the first step. And then I think once you get clear, then you find the simplest route to bring the clarity that you have to the marketplace. That's the second part. Mm-hmm. And then after that, then you can start amplifying it. You can start putting it out there so that the masses get to experience your message. And from that, they decide that they want to invest so that you can get that monetization. And it does take time, depending upon, the variables in your business. It could be as soon as 90 days, but it could be as many as a year. It just really depends. But I also think that most people aren't willing to show up for their businesses like they used to show up for their job.
You better, girl.
That's the problem.
That's the truth. What do you think that's about?
I think it's a sense of entitlement and not really understanding the entrepreneurial focal point as opposed to the entrepreneurial or the employee mindset, right? Because we are employees. We went to work every single day. And whether we showed up at 60%, 80%, or 110%, we still got the same paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But in your business, showing up at 60% versus 120% could be the difference between sales being closed and sales being stagnant. Yeah. And so we aren't giving our businesses the same respect that we gave our job when we first started. I'm not talking about the point when you were ready to go, because we know that the respect is minimal at that point. But when you first got there and you came early and you looked your best and your desk was always neat and you were doing FaceTime and all of those things to interface with the people who were movers and shakers, you got to do that same thing inside of your business.
Times 20 million too.
Well, and you know what? Maybe not till 20 times 20 million, but with consistency.
Yeah.
And with an understanding of what needs to happen day in and day out so that you can create some systems. I think new entrepreneurs take way too long to create the systems. They like to show up and start from scratch every day instead of identifying, oh, every Monday I do these 5 things. Let me create a system or a template around these 5 things so that on every Monday I make sure that those things get done. Because when I did those 5 things, they were the equivalent to this many leads and this many sales.
Yeah.
So if we would just focus in and look at it, like that was one of the things that I did once I came back to full-time entrepreneurship. So let me sidebar for a second and tell my story. So I left corporate America in 2004. I had what I call a Keith Sweat moment. Something just wasn't right. And so I went into my boss's office and handed a letter of resignation with no plan at all. Did not know what I was going to do. I had started a part-time Mary Kay cosmetics business. And so I said, well, until I figure it out, I'll just go full-time in Mary Kay. And it served me well for about 2 years. I got my first pink Cadillac and offspring some sales directors into, and was actually on the track to become a national sales director when God kind of tapped me on the shoulder and was like, you remember me? Remember that big mission vision I gave you? Yeah, you're not doing that right now. We need you to scrap all of this and do what I called you to do. And so I literally woke up and decided to start Incredible One Enterprises. The name is because God is incredible and we're created in his image and likeness. And if each one of us would own our incredible and help someone else own theirs, this world would be an incredible one. I know it's cheap, but that's the reason.
No, it has great meaning though.
I started working the business and realized that I did not know how to start a ground up company. I thought I knew everything. And because I was so successful in corporate America and in Mary Kay Cosmetics, I was prideful and I thought I could just figure it out on my own instead of getting help. And I did. I helped myself to bankruptcy. I helped myself to eating ramen noodles and peanut butter and jelly every day for 18 months. I helped myself to going back to work in a job that paid a fraction of what I made when I was in corporate America. But it was actually exactly what I needed because it forced me to get clear, to figure out how to simplify and how to amplify. And so for 2 years, I worked a full-time job and did my business on the side. January 1, 2011, I came back out into full-time entrepreneurship. So I've been full-time entrepreneur for 10 years. And that year we did $250,000 in our business, which was like crazy and exciting. And also knew that it was largely because when I went back to work, I didn't have a lot of time to work my business. So I had to create systems. I had to document. I needed standard operating procedures because I didn't have a lot of time on my hands. I had nights and weekends, essentially, in my 2 weeks of vacation each year to really work the business. And so because of that, when I came back out into full time, I wasn't sitting on the couch watching Maury or whatever people watch on TV during the day. I was actually working the systems that I had established while I was part-time in my business. And that was what gave us the edge, and also getting more and more clear about who I wanted to be in the marketplace. Because there are a lot of people who technically do what I do. But there is only one Darnyelle, and everybody needs a little Darnyelle in their life, if you ask me.
I love it.
So really owning that about myself and recognizing that I am different, but I'm also brilliant. And my brilliance is the key to so many people's next level, and just sitting in that space and showing up powerfully from that space, no matter what, without apology. But it took time to get there. It did not happen overnight, but it was because I was consistent and I was diligent, right? I think about Colossians 3:23 and 24, which is one of my theme scriptures. Like, whatever you do it with heart as unto the Lord and not unto man, for it is from God you get your inheritance. Like, that's how I work every single day. I work as if God is the CEO of my company because, he is.
Come on.
I am his co-CEO. I am the steward over this business, but it is in fact his. And I allow him to call the shots. And once I started doing that, things really began to shift massively for me, which is a big part of the reason why in my work today, I help people to train that spiritual side of them and invite God truly into their businesses so that they don't get on this CEO pedestal and think that this is all their own doing, right? It's like, not that you don't need traditional business strategy, but the real strategy is alignment and connection with God. Yes. And that strategy with your traditional business strategy is the accelerant that helps you to get to your next level everything.
Okay. And that concludes the part. No, I'm just playing.
Like, no, we're just getting started. started. We can't stop yet.
But it's all it's the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And so I want to go into the ramen noodle days, and I want to know when you're having those, and you're like, I'm a pink Cadillac, because I don't know a lot about Mary Kay, but I do know pink Cadillac status. You are a baller shot caller, Mary Kay. So so this muscle, this scaling muscle, and this profitability has been in you. Like, it's part of your DNA, and it's there. Abundance has always been nestled on the inside of you. But those ramen noodle days are a conflict to everything that you know. So what is it that you're saying to yourself? What were the lessons in those ramen noodle days?
Yeah.
That call to the knees, like that sort of, I won't call it a fall from grace. I don't think there's such a thing, but I think that drop from the Cadillac to the ramen noodle is a dip. How did you kill the ego there? Give me all of that.
Yeah, I was about to say, it was all ego. It was all the, what did my mom used to say, like, when you're smelling yourself, right? Like,
yes.
All getting a whiff of yourself and thinking you smell good, you smell a hot mess, right? It was this, I don't need anyone. And I don't know, I can't remember the exact catalyst as to how I took my eyes off of God and how I thought I had it. And I got this. God, you just sit over there, I'm gonna handle it. But that's essentially what it was, thinking that I was greater than my mission, thinking that I was greater than the one who sent me, right? Yeah, the Bible does say greater works will you do, but there are also some stipulations that need to be in place for you to do those greater works. And so in those days, in that time, I was just thinking I knew. I started Incredible One literally after finishing my second pink Cadillac. So before the car even arrived, I started Incredible One Enterprises. And I thought, because I had been so successful in Mary Kay, just like in my corporate career, I went from entry-level customer service to vice president in 3 years. And so because I had done it, like you just said a few minutes ago, it's in my DNA. Oh, I got this. I can do it. I didn't realize that the reason why I was so successful in corporate and even so successful in Mary Kay is because God was right there with me. And I can't remember what the catalyst was that made me think that I had it, that I didn't seek him. But I did not ask for support. I didn't ask for clarity. I just thought I knew what I knew, and it was all ego. And it's so funny. Ego is such a funny thing, right? It's designed to keep us safe and to lead us to believe that the space where we are in that moment is the right place that we're supposed to be. But it's also designed to derail us from our destiny.
Girl.
But we don't realize that because we're an ego. And so I took my eyes off the prize, if you will. I remember during that pivotal 9 months between starting the company and filing bankruptcy, it was about 9 months difference. And the biggest thing that happened during that time is that I became very scattered. I became very confused. And we all know the saying, right? A confused mind does nothing, right?
Yeah.
And the Bible talks about being double-minded, right? I was very double-minded in that time. It was like everything that was my confidence, and it was a reason why I was able to be so successful in my previous circumstances, had dissipated somehow. And I lost sight of what was most important. I was also going through a lot of things personally at that time, and I wasn't leaning in to God and, in full transparency, and I paid for it. It's, it's like John talks about the vine, and when you disconnect from the power source, the power is going to eventually turn off. And so that was kind of what happened. And I tried to figure it out on my own, but salvation, I just love God. Every time I stop and think about it, salvation to me is when you're snatched out of harm's way. And so even though I was spiraling down this dark alley of derailment and, trying to start this business and trying to do it Darnyelle's way instead of remembering the vision that God had cast in me for the business, God still threw me a lifeline, because the job that I ended up getting, so for 7 of those 9 months, I was unemployed and I was not producing income. I was burning through my savings because I sent my car back and stopped Mary Kay. So there was no money coming in, and I also couldn't get a job initially. And then one of my mentors actually referred an opportunity for a job, had come up and referred me, gave my name or whatever. And I basically got the job, no interview. Basically. And I know it was just God. I pray all the time now, God, raise up the people who will use their favor and influence on my behalf.
That's a great one.
Yeah. And so that was essentially what happened. He used his favor and influence on my behalf. And behalf, and I got a job. Now the job paid me $46,000 a year. When I was in corporate, I made $120,000. In my Mary Kay business, I did about $180,000 a year. And so it was a fraction of what I was used to earning. But it was also the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And that is who God is, right? Like, even when we turn our backs on him, he does not turn his back on us. No, and we should all be thanking God right now that is not in fact the case, because he still kept me. He may not have been shining the light on me, but he definitely didn't put me in the dark. And so as soon as I got my bearings right, and I realized, what I had done and how I had gotten sidetracked and just gotten caught up in the hustle and bustle that is everyday life, and brought myself back, he turned the light on me and things started to move really, really quickly. But during those ramen noodle and peanut butter and jelly days, there were lots of moments of despair. There was lots of doubt and questioning. There were lots of crying myself to sleep and wondering if things were ever going to get better. There was the fear of having to live in my car because my home was like on the verge of foreclosure. The money that I had, and this is why I love to talk about money today, because I think we need to normalize a conversation, and you won't have lots of it until you can get used to talking about it. But I burned through money so fast. Like, I think when I quit my job, I had about $250,000 in liquid, not to mention my 401k and all of that stuff. But I burned through $250,000 in 16 months or whatever. Wow. It went so fast. There was no money coming in, and I didn't change my lifestyle. Again, ego. I still drove my ML 550. Ego. Instead of recognizing that I needed to downgrade and I needed to be willing to take a step back in order to make a giant leap forward. No, I had appearances to keep up. There were people who are looking at me, right? I might not have been voted most likely to succeed, but there were people who thought I was most likely to succeed. And I needed to give the people what they wanted. And at least that's what my ego told me. And so I was doing all of this for man instead of doing all of this for God. And he taught me a very valuable lesson, right? It was totally myself, but he also allowed for it to happen. But it was also the best thing that could have ever done. Because had he stepped in and allowed the light to still shine on me, even though I was being borderline disrespectful to myself and most definitely to him, then he would have set a dangerous precedent that that's okay. And it's not. And so you can't do what you are called to do if you are sitting in the seat that is all in your own volition. And so I learned a very powerful lesson. And I wouldn't, as the old mothers used to say, I wouldn't trade nothing for my journey. I wouldn't go back and make one change. I would still have had it be the way that it is, because I think it makes me real, relevant, and relatable to the people that I get to work with every single day. It also makes a really surprising comeback story to give people the hope, right? I love how our forever President Obama's in his book, The Audacity of Hope, there's something magical that happens when people have hope. And, if we all woke up like this and we all had everything we wanted at every point in time, we wouldn't be able to usher the hope into the world that we need to allow other people to come out of whatever it is that they're in.
That's so good.
But to this day, if you want to cuss at me, you give me ramen noodles or peanut butter and jelly. I don't want either. When my husband gets mad at me, he's like, let's have oodles and noodles for dinner. And I'm like, why are you cussing at me? What did I do to you?
Right.
So there's a great ramen restaurant. I won't even go there. I'm like, I don't want no ramen.
I've done that. No, I've steamed them every kind of way. It's so funny. People ask me often, if you could go back and change anything, after going through rape and depression and all these things. And I'm like, I would not, because what God gave me in those times was the ability to know him, to tap into him, to lean into him, to recognize him in a way that I may not have had if I didn't have those dark days. And I also gave me a heart for people, the ability to see people, to see beyond the facades, to see beyond the smiles, to look people in their eyes and see them, because I was once her. So I know what it's like to pretend smile when there's really actually a whole bunch of agony back there. And so, I definitely am grateful to say, and I understand exactly what you mean about that. And now there's this thing, it's sort of like this, you knew it all along, but you couldn't see it. And that's a big part of faith is, it in your heart, right? But you can't quite see it. And you know that that if everything lines up the way that God wants it to, and if everyone plays their parts, if the formula comes together in the right way, the manifestation, the fruition of that hard work, that belief, the deep water will show up, and it'll all be like, aha, there it is. And so I feel like you're sitting in a lot of that now, because that knowing, that deep knowing is what allows you to persevere and just eat another ramen noodle, another peanut butter sandwich, and keep pressing. And start asking for help and ask questions. Because, you know, we learn when our ego crashes against our circumstances, you're like, okay, wait, I don't know it all. I need to, I need to ask more questions. I need help. So what are who's some of the help you called on to really get you, you know, out of those dark waters and into a more like a clearer picture, a better landscape for your business?
Yeah, it's such a great question. So many, mostly books. In full transparency, because the money was funny, so I couldn't invest in any people to be able to pull me out. But I read a lot of books during that time that really helped me to know that I wasn't crazy and that things could change, right? And I'm a sucker for a good story, right? And so I like the underdog, the person who lost it all, didn't know when it was coming back, and today they're riding high. Like, I love those kind of stories. So a lot of different books during that time. Also, I have a couple of mentors that were in corporate America. And those mentors, what I loved about them is that although I left corporate, and they probably all thought I was crazy when I said I was going to quit my good job to go out into the world, first at Mary Kay, and then eventually start my own company, they never sat in judgment of me. And they also never said, I told you so. Like, they supported me where I was, and they helped me to, like, some of the first deals that I got in my business came from those mentors connecting me with people. So that was really, really good. And then of course the obvious is, you know, turn into at that time, my church family, and getting support from people who could see the version of myself that I wasn't able to see because I was sitting in it. Right.
Yeah.
You know, we've all heard the quote that I think Les Brown didn't say it, but he made it famous. It's hard to see the picture when you're inside the frame.
Yeah.
And then, you know, my new iteration on that, it's hard to read the label when you're inside the jar. And so being able to have those people that are willing to look at your label or look at your picture and tell you what's off, and tell you in love, but also tell you the truth, to encourage, but also admonish, right? And make sure that you get out of the stinking thinking or whatever it is that has you in this place in the first place, and being open to being read like a book. Because I think that's a big thing that initially I was not open to that. I was just like, oh no, you can't tell me nothing, which is that entitlement that we don't love so much about our millennials these days.
Right. Yeah. You're like,
but,
okay, wait.
Yeah, that entitlement, right? Like, and I think that is the downside, if you will, of having more good go and happen for you than having bad, right? Because you start to think that you have some special elixir that makes bad repel itself from you, until something happens that makes you human, right? And it helps you to realize that, oh, you really are a human. And if people cut you, you will bleed. And so during that time also, a lot of prayer, a lot of time spent with God. It was during that time that I got to know God for myself. I think prior to that, I was riding on, you know, my grandmother's definition of God, and my step grandfather, who was a pastor of a church, and his definition of God. But I sought him for myself, because I didn't like being churchy wasn't going to cut it anymore. I needed to really cross over into this space of relationship with God, being in connection and alignment with him, to be able to have the courage to see my way through. Because no one knows, right? None of us, any given day, we all wake up. None of us know if this is going to be the best day or the worst day of our life. We kind of wake up absent from that reality, right? And we walk through the day anyway. And so similarly, you know, I was in this place in my life where I had gotten this job, and the job was meeting my basic needs. It kept a roof over my head, so my home didn't have to go into foreclosure. I did have to downsize my Mercedes into a Chevy Equinox, and you know, I did the things that I needed to do, and I did them not from an error of why is this happening to me, but from an era of this needs to happen because there's something greater on the other side of it. And that only comes, I think, from connection and being in alignment, or at least in communication with God, right?
Yeah.
Realizing that it's part of the story, it's necessary. There's going to be something amazing that happens on the other side because you are willing to go through this and you didn't let it take you out in the process. And so I think I always was thinking about the day when things would shift, and working each day like that day was that day, instead of working like, well, it's going to happen in 5 years from now, so I'm just going to coast right now. Mm-hmm. And that's all mindset. It's all realizing that I was earmarked. I was destined for greatness, and not even this could keep me from what God said, because he's not a man that he should lie. And so because he cannot lie, then if he said it, it has to make good, right? And so while I didn't know when it would flip, I knew it had to flip. And so I started operating as if it was going to flip on any given day. And that made a difference.
I love that. I love that. That is the conditioning, I think, great girlfriends, that we all need to sit with in 2021 and reverse engineer some of the bright, happy, successful, clear path days that we want to see, which is knowing that we have to show up with that diligence. And I think that steadiness and that belief that's so firmly rooted gives us the ability to press through when things are hard, when you haven't figured it all out. And I also think it opens the door for other people to step in. And I want to know from you, Darnyelle, when it was time to build a team, because even with building a team, one of the things I learned very early about myself with my first EA, that's probably 10 years ago, maybe 12, I don't know. She saw all my flaws because she saw everything that I on my calendar that was just clashing, right? And I felt so insecure because I was like, she is out here just clear. But I felt naked in the best ways. I felt insecure, yes, but I felt naked in the best ways because I did not even realize how weak I was at scheduling until I had a professional who came in and knew that I did not give myself enough time to get from New York to New Jersey to pick up my kids to make the PTA meeting. I was going to miss that and then have a conference call at 4:00 when my daughter got gymnastics. How? Who did I think I was? So saying that to say, inviting a team into your business really does make it's a level of vulnerability and trust, because, you're exposing things about your business that need fine tuning, but it's the key to really elevating and expanding and protecting and insulating. So for you, when it was time for you to, invite someone into your business, what was the first hire for you? And what was the mindset around, I need to hire, or even if it was a contractor, how did you know it was time?
Yeah. It was time because I couldn't do it all. And I stopped being Superwoman. Like Karen White said it best, right? I am not Superwoman. Listen, and I can sing the whole song to you all right now. And so once I came back out into my business full time, January 1, 2011, I immediately threw up my first posting. I knew that I was going to need to hire someone to be able to do the things. Like, I always had this vision in my mind of me really being a CEO, even before I really was one. Yeah. I think everybody has CEO on their business card, but most people are not operating like a CEO. But I always had this vision of someone bringing me my calendar for the day and telling me where I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to be doing and keeping me on point and on check, right? And so I did that. First, it was a part-time contractor, 20 hours a week, like 10 until 2 every single day. I did that probably from 2011 to maybe 2013. And then 2014, I hired all full-time. So I ended up having 5 full-time employees. I do not recommend you try this at home the way that I did it the first time. So I hired a full-time executive assistant, paid her way too much, so she became entitled. So she ended up leaving the company because the money she was making wasn't enough for her. And, it was just a mess. And then I hired a full-time director of operations and some other roles because we had crossed the $1 million mark. Like, it felt like overnight we crossed the $1 million mark. And I was like, oh, somebody's got to help me manage all of this stuff. Because I basically created a monster inside of my business. From overnight, I went from, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 clients to almost 200.
Wow.
Overnight at my live event, we had all of these people enrolled because remember, I told you guys that if I took a bold stand for him, he would make it easy. And so 2014 was our next event. And so at 2013, we had, I think 78 people in the room. 2014, we had 265 people in the room. And of those 265 people, something crazy like 123 signed up.
Wow.
And so it was
killer conversion.
And then, we went into our open moment. Yeah, it was ridiculous and amazing. And we were just like, well, what did he do? And of course, this was before "won't he do it" was a hashtag, but he was doing it. Listen, and so I rushed and desperately hired a whole bunch of people. And they were not, I didn't do it the right way. And so it was a terrible process. My monster got bigger. I ended up having to fire everyone and start from scratch. I fired all of my employees, fired most of my clients. I took it down to what I could manage. And then I decided to rebuild my business because I knew that I could have a multi-million-dollar business, but I knew I didn't want it that way because I couldn't enjoy what I was creating. I was so overwhelmed and inundated by all of the things. I'm a high touch kind of person. And so I really like to connect and interact with. I want to know all of my clients. I want to know what's going on in their lives and in their businesses. I want to be able to connect with them. And even as I'm scaling my business and I have full-time coaches on my team, it's still important for me that I know what's going on with our clients, right? Because these people have decided to invest in themselves to me, and I'm on a divine mandate. And so it's not okay that I work with people that I don't know what's going on and I haven't impacted their business. Like, that's just not okay with me. And so I had to figure out how to do all of that inside of a business that would allow me to scale so that it would serve and support me while supporting my clients. And so it probably took me 24 to 36 months to figure it out what the right mix was and how we could actually scale the business up. And so now today we're actually hiring again. I'm posting 3 positions today. I'm posting another business success coach, a client concierge, which is really like a person who helps us with our like an inside sales rep, but we give them a better title than salesperson, and then an operations director so that we can take the business. Because my goal now is, which coincides with God's goal, is that this be a $10 million company. And so we're putting everything in place. I'm really big. I want to share this with the girlfriends because it's so important that you guys get this as entrepreneurs and small business owners. You have to prepare for rain. God will not send the rain until your fields are ready. And so like I made a decision that this, God and I made the decision that this is what the company should be. And so we're building out the infrastructure to support a $10 million company. And we're doing it now. We're doing it before we have the numbers, before we have the rain, while it's not a drought because we got clients and clients are consistently coming in, but it's not happening the way that it's going to happen so that when he sends the rain, we will be ready because he'll never put more on you than you can bear. So he's not sending the rain. It doesn't matter how many times you pray for it. It doesn't matter if you pray for it in tongues. He's not going to send the rain until you're ready. And so we have to learn how to hire from our vision point and not our vantage point, right? Not where you are right now.
You go stop right there. You go stop right. That is so important. Oh my God. I need to breathe for a second. Yes, that is so important. That is like law of the architect, principle number 1, hiring from that vision point versus the vantage point. That's the Noah and the ark, right? That is no rain, ain't never seen rain, but building this ark and bringing 2 of every animal on, trusting that God said there's going to be rain. You're going to need to be prepared for what's to come and be protected from some things that you can't see and understand. That's vision that gives you permission to do that. Vantage point only, the lens is so tight and it's so different and the scope is so much smaller, but the vision, the grandeur of it all comes from that impartation. I hope you have that in a book. I hope is that in one of the 29 gazillion books you've written that are bestsellers?
It isn't, but there is. Like I'm trying to right now I'm trying to get the business ready because I'm preparing for the reign of a baby. So my husband and I are actively trying to bring a baby into the world. And what's amazing about this, and I'm I put God out there again, is I'm 45.
Yeah.
So, but I have a promise. I'm believing God for the promise and it's going to happen. And so we're putting things in place so that when, we are pregnant and the baby is here, I can settle and rest. I don't have to hustle. I don't ever hustle, but I don't have to do anything that is contrary to the purposes of what I want in my life at that particular point in time.
You can be present.
So that for me is a big part of what it is that we're doing, right? So I can be fully present so that health-wise, I can rest, I can, maximize my self-care and all of those types of things because of course I'm 45. So there are going to be elements of the pregnancy that are probably more challenging than a 22-year-old. And so, And so for me, a lot of that is just, I'm operating from how it's going to be when that happens right now, even though I can't see it, even though I have no idea when it's going to happen. It's like Habakkuk 2:3 says, but wait for it, for it will surely come. Like, I know it's coming. And so I am working on it. It might be tarrying right now, but I know it will surely come. And so we're putting those elements in place. And it's the same thing when we hire. Like, you can't hire from your comfort zone. Like, I've seen clients who've tried to hire from what makes them feel comfortable today. And I'm like, this person is not going to be able to support you when your business is doing $1 million. This person doesn't have the right skill set. They're not, professional enough, or whatever the things are. And so I'm able to offer that different viewpoint from the one that they have. And I just know, for me, like in the next book, which was the original question, I'm going to talk about all of these little frameworks. Like, I speak in acronyms and in frameworks, and I have like a million quotes that, and one of this vision point, vantage point, which I say, every time I say it, it like creates you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, that's a good one. We need to trademark that. And so I'm like, I send it to my IP attorney. I'm like, can we get a trademark on this? So just so we can prepare for that. But yeah, there's a whole continuum of things that we need to do from our vision point, from our vantage point. And so there's a lot of work that we do with our clients with having a vision cast and then figuring out what they need in order to support that vision today, even though it might be a 5-year vision or a 10-year vision or whatever the case might be. And I think anybody who really wants to experience scale needs to start thinking like that. You really need to start thinking from where you desire to be and not where you stand right now, because that's so limiting.
It's so limiting. It's so limiting. And your heart will always call for more. And your spirit you'll feel like you can't see it. You know that it's there, but you can't see it. You can't reach for it until you give yourself permission to view and to kind of, co-create with God and see things the way he sees, like that. And it's so accessible, but you do have to give permission, to make space for it. Darnyelle, I could keep you all day, but I can't keep you all day because she's got baby making to do. She's got business.
Well, we're not making no babies right now, Sybil.
Well, not now, but like when hubby calls, like it's on the roll, because baby is going to be a beautiful reflection of all the love, all the grace, all the joy, all the passion. And let me tell you something, you plant such beautiful seeds. Your harvest is it will always be bountiful. Always, always. And I know this from even just a short amount of time of experiencing your spirit, but it's a veteran, that's a seasoned, woman, a servant who knows how to give so generously without bounds and trusting that what is yours is yours. It will always come back to you in harvest. The alignment will always take place. The provision is always there. So where can the great girlfriends find you, DM you, ask questions, keep up? I see, I'm going to have a list of the books because there's 7, I think, right? 7 books. Is that your stack?
Oh, that I've written. Yes, 7 books that I've written. Yes.
You better be a boss,
back there.
No. I'm talking about your book. So there's 7 books. There's a number of programs. One of them will be for you. There's lots of ways that you can plug into her brand. Where can they find you, Darnyelle?
Yeah, and just before I share that, I wanted to go back to the last thing that you were just talking about, because I think it is so important. And the reason why I wanted to just pop back there for a second is because I just feel like the people that are listening, they need to hear this little piece, because this little piece is the piece that makes a difference. And you said, how you share selfishly and how, I operate from a paradigm of abundance. I don't know lack. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of people out there who say, only give them the what and the why, but they pay you for the how. And don't give too much, because if you give too much, then people won't want to pay. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Like, complete lie. I think about Zig Ziglar, who said, if you help enough people get what they want, then you will get what you want. Mm-hmm. And because I know who my source and my provider is, there's no way in the world that it doesn't matter what I share with you. I could never give you the crux of the difference that I could make in your life if you decided to take the next step. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know who's going to listen to this, who has been under this lack mindset that you have to ration what it is that you're sharing out into the marketplace, but I'm just going to encourage you not to fall into that. I'm going to encourage you instead to give out of the bounty that is yours. And what is for you is for you. There is nobody who can take what God has already earmarked and reserved for you. And you showing up fully to allow people to experience that right where they are is only going to quicken the pace with which it finds you. So don't be about lack, be only about abundance. And so I just needed to say that real quick because I don't know who needed to hear that. So how can you find me? You can find me on Instagram as @Darnyelle Jervey Harmon. You can find me on Clubhouse as @Darnyelle. I'm doing Clubhouse like a couple of times a week. Just pouring in and offering opportunity to serve and support. My website, we're actually in the process of rebuilding it. So let me send you to partnerwithdarnyelle.com. or nextleveleverythingtv.com. If you want to learn more about me and my backstory, we created and I executive produced a docuseries in 2020 with a phenomenal video brand storyteller, Ju Charles. It's called the Next Level Everything docuseries. And if you go to nextleveleverything.tv, you can watch all 5 of the videos. It is so good. It's so vulnerable. Oh my gosh. I'm not embarrassed because I was okay with sharing it, but it is, if you want to really get to know me, you could watch that and you will learn some things about my life and my story and hopefully have an even greater appreciation for the work that it is that I do today.
Oh, I cannot wait to watch. I'm so excited about that. I just want to thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to encourage every single one of you great girlfriends to hit people in the DM because you never know what's going to come of it. Because I'm going to have her back again and again and again. You know, this is not the last time. You know, I got to have you back.
Oh, I'm totally down with it. Yeah. And fall in my DMs, like totally. Like I am a person. If you cut me, I bleed. You know what I mean? I put my panties on one leg at a time, just like y'all do, unless I'm in a rush. So feel free. If I'm in a rush, I got to get on. But otherwise, I take my time. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm real. Like I told you earlier, I'm ghettois. I have ghetto tendencies and I have bougie tendencies. And so
I love the mix.
I'm a real person and I love to have fun and I love to connect and communicate with people. And so. Yeah.
I'm so here for it. Thank you so much, Darnyelle.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been awesome.
Great girlfriends, did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast, into the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group, The Great Girlfriends. You follow us on Instagram @The Great Girlfriends and on Twitter @the_great_GFS. Last but not least, we'd like to thank my amazing husband, Kwaku, Sam and Dilly, and all of you for being a part of the global community that makes us so strong. Please remember to share with your friends, keep listening, and keep being a great girlfriend. I'm Sybil Amuti, and I'm out. Peace.